All right, let's start off with our first big story. Recent attacks on airports in Belgium and Turkey. Of course, you remember the Ataturk airport bombing that happened barely a week ago has triggered, greater attention to improving security in and around airports. Now, with experts tasking governments of nations to rise to the emerging challenges.
The world is currently battling with insurgency of all sorts, but airports have never been a target of terrorists until March the 22nd, when insurgents hit Brussels airport in Zaventem.
In light of this, the federal government of Nigeria has been advised to reinforce security at the nation's airports to forestall possible terror attacks.
Experts in the aviation sector as well as the International Air Transport Association declared that there has been a growing challenge for governments to keep people safe in the landside parts of airports. General Manager Corporate Affairs, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN Yakubu Datti, stated that the agency wants all airport users, especially passengers and airline operators, to be security conscious. FAN advised passengers not to accept luggage from anyone and to report any suspicious movement or behavior to aviation security personnel in the airport terminals. The FAN spokesman said the authorities have put adequate security measures in place at all Nigerian airports to forestall any form of security breach, including the installation of 3D screening machines, metal detectors, and CCTV cameras. International Air Transport Association has expressed outrage over the recurring spate of terror attacks at airports around the world. IATA is the trade association for the world's airlines, representing some 260 carriers or 83% of the total air traffic, and helps in the formulation of industry policies and critical aviation issues.
Okay, that's our first big story this morning. We're joined now by retired Group Captain John Ojikutu, who's the Secretary General, Aviation Roundtable. He's also an aviation security consultant. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning, sir.
Now, against the backdrop of what happened in March in Belgium and, of course, Ataturk Airport, one is beginning to wonder whether Nigerian airports, 22 of them, under the management of FAN, is actually adequately prepared for such eventualities. Would you say so?
I'm not going to say whether they are adequately prepared or not, because it's a general problem. It's not only in Nigeria.
Yes.
Aviation generally, in most countries, the security has been tailored only towards passengers. Even the Aviation Security International had put nation to be mindful of passengers that are traveling. So every system you find in every airport is only tailored to finding somebody who wants to commit an awful act against aviation among the passengers. Very few attention has been paid to outside passengers, which must have included, or which should include, the staff working in the airport workers, and even the meters and seers in the airport. The issue of whether airports, what has happened in a Brussels or Ataturk airport is new. It's not new. Airports have been attacked in the past. But what happened is that we don't pay attention to the fact that the terrorists have a lot of a lot of cards to play. And they can play those cards at any time, at their own time. So what nations need to do, what we need to do, other than putting too much attention on passengers, because you find out that terrorists are not even using passengers again. They are using people working in the airport. And even the dimension that it has taken in Ataturk and Brussels now is that they are not even using passengers again. They are not using the staff. They use people from outside who will come into the airport, disorganize the airport, use gun, and at the same time put explosive. We should start paying attention to the people we recruit in the airport that are working in the security control area. There's what we call the security control area. Where are those security control areas? Where you park the aircraft, where you are checking baggage.
Yes.
You understand? Where you are screening baggage. because a lot of things happen between that point and inside the aircraft.
So when you're talking about recruitment, how do you
have to do a lot of background checks.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to do a lot of background checks among people that are working in the airport, because even among the passengers, there's what you call caps, which the airline need to do, where you can get your regular passenger, frequently travel passenger. You can easily separate them from other passengers. So that those you do not know, you give them what you call enhanced screening before you put them inside the aircraft.
Okay, what if
for the staff, you must do adequate background screening. What we do, what I have had them doing in most airports, particularly in Nigeria, is that they tell you they do security screening. Security screening is limited. And what they do is that, which is done by the police, what is done is that if you don't have any criminal record with the police and they don't have your fingerprints before they declare you, it's not adequate. Because these days a lot of things happened. We have seen people taking the identity of some other person, using other people's name. You understand? So that is the issue. We need to do adequate background check. If you give me your name now, I need to work backwards.
Do we even have such facility to determine people's fingerprint and such
I
criminal
think the police have that.
Criminal database in Nigeria?
Police do have that. But the point is that it's not, well, like I said, it's not adequate.
Okay.
But
Perhaps
not just,
perhaps when the person is already employed, you've passed the screening test and you've employed. As at that point, you were not radicalized.
Yeah.
So what happens when you're already an employee of the airport?
That is why we advise that you need to do this background check regularly. It's not just once.
Okay.
You need to do it regularly. Every 6 months. We have seen issues where people who worked in the airport before went outside the airport, got radicalized, find their way back into the airport. Maybe not in Nigeria, but it happened in New York, it happened in New Jersey, it has happened all over the whole place. But you need to get something that is going to identify them almost immediately.
Now, beyond doing this background checks every now and then, like you said, every 6 months,
every
and all
6
of that,
months probably. Yeah.
Is there a need to move staff around, not allowing them to stay in a particular place
that is another
for
way
too
of
long?
That is another way of doing it. You understand? You could move them around. But then even when you move them around too, they could still have means of going into that place.
Okay.
You understand? So you need to, as you are moving them around, the system too must change. But whether we have the capital to do that is another thing, because aviation security costs a lot of money.
Indeed.
It is not the responsibility you give to the airport authority. And that is the area that I always say that aviation security, you don't give it to the airport authority, you must give it to a security agency. The setup we have in this country is that FAN is an airport manager. He's not a security agent. And what has happened in most countries, most global countries that we know as at now, is that the responsibility of aviation security, which is part of national security, has been delegated to a security autonomous agency that will hold it as a duty and report directly to the highest authority.
But as it is now, the federal government has moved a unit, the investigative part of it, unit of the Nigerian police, to join them at the airport. That's what we read about 2 days ago. Do you think that's a knee-jerk reaction or something that should have been made permanent?
It should be made permanent. Not only made permanent, there must be only one single central control. You understand? There must be a central control and a central command. But if you have a situation where the aviation security in the airport needs to report to somebody else before you get there, you are going to have a problem.
You have a plethora of security agencies at the
Absolutely,
airports.
that's what I'm saying. And that's why something happened in the airport.
There's immigration, there is customs, there's NDLEA,
there's police,
there's police.
SSS, there's the Air Force, there's almost...
And all of that. And
absolutely.
one has
and when something happens in the airport, you start looking for whom to hold responsible. Nobody.
So this is counterproductive in itself.
It is. We have mentioned that. It is counterproductive. You must have just one single. There's nothing wrong in picking cells, custom, immigration, police, and they put them into one and put somebody in charge. And that's what the TSA in America is all about. They have the immigration, they have the custom, they have the police. They put them under the Homeland Security. And
which was created specially after 2011?
Absolutely. They created it for border security. Not only in the airport, even along the border. That is what happened. But they have only one single control and command. But in our own case now, it's a very difficult situation. And for over 8 years now, we've been advised that what government needs to do is to find a way to have just one single control so that you can easily hold somebody responsible if something goes wrong.
Now, the report we just, put out there by our correspondent, I mean, she talked about, measures, security measures that have been put in place, 3D security, screening machines, metal detectors, CCTV cameras, and all of these. Are you saying these are not adequate to meet the new challenges of security?
They have all these things in Ataturk Airport. They have all these things in Brussels. And what you find out is that when issues like this happen, it is after the act. Before you start getting how it happened, it is always after the act.
Isn't that where the challenge is?
That is where the challenge. That is the intelligence.
Proactive.
Again, it's intelligence. Intelligence in all security takes minimum of about 70%. If your intelligence fails, then you have a problem. So you must be able to find out who are the perpetrators at the planning stage before they get active.
But even the Nigerian army has not been able to unravel that mystery in Nigeria. So I don't know which group are you asking to do just
the
that
Nigerian
job?
army is not intelligent.
They are not. But they've not been able to unravel the issue of terrorism where it comes to intelligence gathering. They have to rely even on some international community. So how would that be contained?
We need a national intelligence. The military has its own intelligence peculiar to its own operation. The police has its own intelligence peculiar to its own operation. The Air Force has its own intelligence peculiar to its own operation. We need a national intelligence where everybody drops all those information, sieve it, and bring out a national intelligence. And that is what is missing.
Okay. All right. Some experts and consultants like you have advocated and preached the issue of having self-service kiosk in airports where even from the point where you go in, you don't really meet anybody, no contact with human. If you go in as a passenger, you print your ticket out, your passing board yourself, you do all the check-ins and everything, just a kiosk that will do everything you need to do that. With that, that will limit some kind of contact, perhaps decrease the risk of having such terrorist attacks.
It will only sieve out the regular, frequently travel passengers. That system is going to come up. I don't know when we're going to do that here, but probably in the next 2-3 years it will come out in Europe. It will sieve out the frequently travel passengers from those who are not, which I said before. And those who are not regular passengers, there's going to be a place for you to pass to. The regular passenger will have a different outlet, while the non-regular passenger will have it will sieve them out for them to be re-screened for enhanced screening. It is not the issue of whether you have contact with somebody or you don't have contact with somebody. The problem has gone beyond passenger, like I told you. The problem is even internal.
And that's what I'm saying. If those passengers, for instance,
maybe before we go further,
it is not
when those passengers don't have contact even with the people that work in the airport, then the risk might just be limited.
The threat is not coming from a passenger having contact with the staff. The threat is now the staff in the airport having contact with the terrorists outside.
All right, let's examine a few cases of attacks on airports. The latest attack happened on June the 28th, 2016, when gunmen attacked the Ataturk airport in Istanbul, Turkey. 45 people were killed alongside 3 of the attackers. 239 others were injured.
On March the 22nd, the Islamic State launched 3 coordinated bombings in Belgium, 2 at Brussels Airport in Zaventem and 1 at Molenbeek Metro Station. 32 persons and 3 of the perpetrators were killed in that attack. More than 300 others were injured.
In 2007, Glasgow International Airport was attacked on June the 30th when a dark jeep loaded with explosives drove into glass doors of the airport. A suicide bomber attacked the Domodedovo airport in Russia on January the 24th, 2011, killing 37 people and left 170 injured.
Russia later identified the bomber as a 20-year-old from the North Caucasus. Later, a group of Caucasus Emirates led by Doko Omirov claimed responsibility for the attack.
Well, in Africa now, twin suicide bombings rocked the Aden Ade International Airport, Mogadishu, Somalia, which hosted the African Union mission on September the 17th, 2009. The attackers managed to get into the airport by using two stolen UN cars, and the attack claimed 21 lives and left 40 persons injured. Now, let's even look at the latest warnings from the U.S., of terror threats to Lagos. Do we have, I mean, in the UK, for example, or even in the U.S., you have the different grades or levels of risk threats, amber, red, and all of that, green. Do we even have such things in Nigeria to be able to, project the level of risk that is out there for Nigerians generally, and especially at the airports?
And that is why I said, if your national intelligence is right, you'll be able to get, you need to be proactive. For instance, I always say, those among them who are in the Boko Haram, the so-called Nigeria Delta people, they are human beings. How many are they? Do we really know? Do we have faces? The Americans are following faces. They are following movement of people. When they find out that there is a movement that they have been tracking and it gets mixed up in the crowd, and they cannot follow, they raise alarm. But do we really have that? How many of these people are we facing? Until just maybe about February, we were not getting faces of the Boko Haram people. Until February, that they came out with about 15 names with their pictures. But before then, how many? Even now, how many of them do we have? The ones in the Niger Delta, how many faces do we have? It is only when you are able to get faces and you are tracking them that you can raise such alarm. But if you cannot get to that level, then you have a problem. If you work with other countries, they can give you information like the American did. Even the bombing of 2010 in Abuja, it was America that raised the alarm for us.
Indeed.
And unfortunately, we didn't take it seriously until it started happening right on our face in Abuja there.
All right, let's look at some peculiar cases in the two major airports where you have the one in Lagos and the one in Abuja. For Abuja, for instance, there are a lot of arguments that the border, so to say, or it is a porous place where you have so many entrances into the Abuja airport. You can either go this way, go that way, and all that. That, of course, will give room for unauthorized person to get access into the airport. And that of Lagos, there are allegations of profiteering among the security officials
forces
there who are meant to protect lives, but because of what they do, they probably will create more security breach than protect lives there.
That's why I told you initially that, look, the threat is coming from within now than even looking at the passengers.
Yeah, before the panacea,
the threat is coming within now than even among the passengers. Now let's take Lagos, for instance, because Lagos is more of a problem than even Abuja. Lagos is built within complicated urban development area. If you get which direction, either from Afuluku, Oshodi, Agege, Ikeja, Akumojo side and Akumojo, they merged Lagos at the center. And the development is not controlled. The development of houses, urban development is not controlled towards Lagos. Even the perimeter fence is being used as part of as part of other people's building.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
Especially the Mafoluku
Absolutely.
area.
The perimeter fence of the airport is being used. And the regulation says if you are going to put anything behind the fence, it should be 6 meters away. And that includes road. If you cannot do that, then you must create a secondary fence, which you call the security fence. That is the problem. We don't have. We are trying to have it over 10 years now. We've not been able to do that. That is a major problem. So Abuja now, you can control the development towards Abuja so that you can have a secured security fence.
But even with Abuja, you have estates and all of that springing up, as
well,
you
not
drive
in close
towards,
proximity like
towards
that
the
of
airport.
Lagos. Yeah.
Are you saying then
if you
that
look at Abuja, if you fly into Abuja, if you look at the perimeter fence, you find that in some area they even have another fence,
Yeah.
security fence.
Indeed.
You understand? The area you'll be talking about is towards the airport if you drive towards the airport, but they are not close to they are not close to the operational area.
They're not.
The operational area where the aircrafts are the most delicate part of aviation security. You must find a way to protect it. If the perimeter fence is not enough, you create a security fence. Lagos, like I used to say, if you do not control the movement of development towards the airport, the development towards the airport will find itself right inside the airport. If you go to Ajao Estate, for instance, Ajao Estate,
Yes.
the fence there is broken and people are building towards the runway. That is the danger.
Wow.
There are certain things we need to probably keep without even saying, but we keep talking to government that you need to arrest this situation before it gets out of hand.
What about the practice where, so-called VIPs are actually allowed to drive all the way to the
I think
tarmac,
that has stopped.
to the
That has stopped.
okay.
That has stopped more than 4 or 5 years ago. That has stopped. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting to know. Now, there are allegations that, security operatives and other aviation officials themselves are a major obstacle when it comes to enforcement of, security measures at the airport. Like we cited earlier,
Yeah.
so many of them,
Yeah.
and, they're hardly working in tandem.
Yeah.
Are we recommending then that these security forces should be, streamlined? Or
It's part of
should
the
they
thing
be
I've just said.
Yeah.
That if you have a central command and control for those who are in charge of security in the airport, you're not going to have that problem. The question I always ask them is that in what we call the National Aviation Security Program, you tell me FAN is in charge of coordinating the security in the airport, and I ask a question: how will FAN control the police? How will FAN control the custom in the airport? And you've had, not too long ago, a kind of conflict between them, beating themselves up in the airport. That's the situation here. But if they are under one single command and control,
it will be a lot easier to
absolutely,
coordinate them.
yeah.
All right, just hold on. Retired Group Captain John Ojikutu, Secretary General Aviation Roundtable, who is here with us talking about security at Nigerian airports. Do we even have laws in place to check the excesses, especially, situations where it's been proven over and over again that they actually collect, monies or bribes from passengers and allow them to, just have freeway?
If it is proven, you understand? Of course, yes. The respective agency must take care of that. If it is well proven, the respective security agents, if a custom man demands money from somebody and it is well proven, it's expected that the authority of the custom will be able to take care of that.
But in the course of that, security has been breached several times where you have, remember the case of the Lebanese who came to Nigeria without adequate documents and all of that.
Yeah.
And you have cases of different,
There
foreigners too.
There are a lot of cases like that. But again,
Except of
it
course
is
he
the
has the
agency.
green passport.
You understand? I mentioned something earlier on that aviation security is a function of national security, because they have to report to the highest authority. They have to report in what we call Annex 17, international aviation security. It has to be controlled by the National Security Council.
Okay.
You understand?
All right. I know you've said that the issue going on right now is gone beyond the passenger screening and all
It
that,
has.
but you also can't take it past the fact that passengers too can be used. So the Israel model, what was obtainable in Israel, where even from the very point where you buy the ticket, the screening begins on you as a passenger.
And that's why I told you that the airline have what they call CAPS. They call it computer assisted pre-passenger screening at the point you are buying ticket. What I didn't tell you is that the aviation security is about 6 layers. The airline themselves take about 2. One of them is the one I'm telling you now. They are supposed to check their passenger, and that's why when you go and buy a ticket,
They are supposed to, but they don't do that, do
they
they?
should do that. And the case of Abu Mutalab is what I normally refer to people where they were so negligent about it that the guy passed through.
Indeed.
You understand? He bought a ticket. When every students, Nigerian students are coming back home, in December during winter. A Nigerian student was traveling out of the country without luggage. That is the beginning of the screening, pre-passenger screening by the airline when you are buying ticket. What is your address in overseas? Nothing like that was taken. There were so many things that was wrong with that case, except that we were just lucky with Abdulmutal. They are supposed to do that before they give you a ticket. They could refuse you a ticket. But even at that point, if the National Security Intelligence is working, like in his own case, there was. He was already on the watch list. But unfortunately, he went through.
And is there any role for passengers themselves to play? Can passengers help in ensuring their own security beyond what the airports will provide for them?
Well, if you know of anybody that is on the watch list, if you know anybody that is on the watch list, if you know anybody that belongs to a gang, usually those ones are supposed to be given enhanced screening. If they have not been enhanced, if their screening has not been enhanced from the point they were buying ticket, you call the airline's attention to it. You understand? You could do that as a passenger. But if you have anybody on the watch list, like I said before, if government has people on the watch list among the Boko Haram people, you must share that intelligence with the airline. You give it to the NCAA. NCAA must be able to share that with the airline. At the point they are selling tickets to people, they check it in their system. We have somebody on the watch list, then they refuse selling ticket to that person.
All right.
If it's really somebody that should not be on flight, you call the attention of the security agency to it so that they can, maybe at the point of entry, give him a ticket, give him body pass. At the point of entry, they'll be able to arrest you.
All right, would like to say thank you so much, retired Group Captain John Ojikutu, Secretary General, Aviation Roundtable and Aviation Security Consultant. Thank you so much for being a part of the show this Thursday morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
All right, let's turn our attention to other stories now, and this one would really concern even the housewife at home, especially at this time when, you know, celebrations and all of that. Yes, and what is it? The price of gas, kerosene and diesel going up. Now, Nigeria does not import cooking gas, unlike kerosene and diesel. Gas is produced locally and to a large extent not traded in foreign currency.
But the prices of these domestic sources of energy continue to soar. We wonder why.
According to the latest data from the Department of Petroleum Resources, Nigeria's gas reserves life index stands at 79 years, counting from January 2015. The country has 188 trillion cubic feet in gas reserve as at 2015. Against this backdrop, experts under the umbrella of the Nigerian Gas Association decided to identify challenges and reevaluate developments in the industry.
I would, however, argue that we've really not put gas where it should be. We've tucked it in the overall oil and gas scheme. And I think what's, as you saw from the presentations, is that it needs to take its own unique position. And you could actually build on it and pretend for a minute that we're a nation without oil and a nation with abundance of gas. Even that would invoke a new policy regime that will be specific to gas.
You know, gas has a multiplier effect on the economy. When there is power, the industries are working, a lot of people will get employed.
Conference delegates discuss loss of revenue to government due to continuous flaring of the product.
Flaring of gas has reduced substantially in Nigeria from, let's say, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So less gas is being flared in Nigeria today, and that's a good thing. The problem is that a lot of gas is flared simply because to harness that gas which is being flared costs a lot of money. NNPC is not paying its cash call. I think you heard the sum of $7 billion is owed by NNPC towards the joint venture partners. Because of that, they can't undertake all the projects required to harness associated gas, which is the gas you see being flared. But things are being done. Other people are coming along who are looking at how to monetize associated gas.
Participants at the event emphasized the need to reposition the nation's natural gas sector to support a cleaner environment for economic growth.